My name is Sandra Jones, and I'm telling my quilt story at a Community Quilt Day in Hazard, Kentucky. Today is Saturday, May 27th, 2023. This quilt came from um, a little discussion in a quilt workshop that I was invited to at the last minute. And the question was asked, what we were trying to decide what kind of quilt to make, and the question was asked, what is most important to you about this area, because we wanted it to focus on Appalachia. Um, and but I'll tell you about this centerpiece in just a few seconds. So one person said the mountains were important. One person said that she loved watching the sunset from her porch on top of the mountain. And um, what was sticking out to me, because we wanted it to have an African American influence as well, um, was we had gone to a museum in Montgomery, and we saw one of the first things we saw was um, African heads coming up out of the water where they had been tossed overboard during the transatlantic slave trade. So that stood out for me. So that's what the bottom is. The bottom of this quilt are the heads in the water. And this was appliqued. We cut those individual pieces and appliqued those together. Um, Now the center part was a block that was just donated to the workshop. It is authentic African piece. Um, and the mountains, the Appalachian Mountains, um, kind of represents a struggle, but at the same time represents peace, tranquility, being in the mountains. The sunrise here, this is all appliqued. Each strip was cut separately. Um, the sunrise from her porch, the sunset from her porch actually became the sunrise, because my vision for the quilt became the story of the Africans being resurrected from their trials and tribulations, and they were set free. So the name of this quilt is The Resurrection. And it is, when I was doing this, and a lot of people who were in here watching me labor on these rays, um, they will tell you that it was almost like birthing, giving birth to a quilt. This was my first quilt, and it wasn't intentional. It just kind of happened, fell in place. So it was kind of like giving birth to this gift. I grew up watching and helping my mother quilt. She hand stitched quilts in one of the wooden stands that you rolled the quilts on, and I would help her roll, and I would sit and watch her quilt. And so that is kind of the rays. I have to get this in here. I counted the rays because I wanted them to be um, equal on each side. So when I counted them, I counted 32, and I was like, oh my gosh, 32 stripes that Jesus bore for us, So I knew that God was in this vision for this quilt. So you're looking at the resurrection, and it was quilted by Sheridan, who works here, as one of the owners, and she also caught the vision, and all of her stitching kind of flowed along with the story. So you got the waves down here, and um, you've got the rays, you got the waves up here that show the heat coming off of the waves, and so she really caught the vision. And the back, I'll quickly show you the back. It's got some authentic African fabric in here as well. This is authentic African fabric here, that block here. And they're also on the front as well, kind of to hold that in there. So, the resurrection.